Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This is going to be the 3-game NBA slate for today on Draftkings. I know your first initial reaction is, ew, gross 3-game slate. That was my first reaction too. It's actually 3 pretty solid games for fantasy purposes and just NBA purposes. So you got Dallas versus Portland, you got Luka there, Hassan Whiteside, Damian Lillard, potentially CJ McCollum, Kristaps Porzingis. Should be a pretty exciting game there. Then you have the Lakers versus Brooklyn, which is the LeBron, Anthony Davis versus Kyrie Irving. So LeBron versus Kyrie Irving, that'll be pretty fun to watch. And then just from a fantasy standpoint, if you're just a casual NBA fan, you're probably thinking gross Cleveland versus Washington. But if you're a fan of fantasy, which I'm sure you are if you're watching this video, you're probably thinking there's probably going to be a lot of points scored in that game because we have 2 of the worst defenses in the NBA for squaring off, and we know these Washington games tend to be really high scoring, and we know Cleveland games, just tend to get scored on. So it should be a pretty good game for fantasy purposes. I believe we have a 235 total here. I've not seen the spread yet. Can't imagine it's too out of hand either way. So I think this is going to be a fantastic game for fantasy purposes, and I'll be probably looking to stack that up, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. Also follow me on Twitter at Pennell16. And if you're interested in the spreadsheets I build every single night for the NBA season, I do these videos the night before. So a lot of what I said sometimes can get thrown out the window. I try my best to be able to tell you guys scenarios if guys happen to be out or in, and what we could do if that's the case. But my most up-to-date, accurate information, it's in my spreadsheets that I build every single day. And I update it all the way up until lock and throughout lock as well. And I also relay information in my Discord chat. And I also do my cheat sheet, core plays, my projections, all that good stuff, defense first position chart. All available in the link in the description below for my Patreon. And without further ado, let's get into today's slate. So up top, we got Luka. He comes in at 12,003. Actually, before we start, I want to talk about Zion. How about that? That was pretty exciting. He actually started off the game pretty slow. He had 2 points, and then he got the 5 points. Then he ended up scoring, 10 or 13 points in just like a minute or two. So ended up having a really good burst of a couple minutes in the second half. Ended up finishing the game pretty strong. So I'm sure Twitter changed their opinion on him because he was getting a lot of bad tweets about him. Maybe you check Twitter at halftime. I don't know, but he was juiced up at the end of the game. But yeah, that was pretty exciting. So that's a little off topic, but let's get into Luka here. He's at 12,300. He's by far the most expensive player on this slate, but it's well deserved. The guy's an absolute monster. He's almost averaging a 30-point triple-double in the season, 29 points, 9.7 boards, 9 assists. And past 3 games, typical Luka stuff, 70 points, 60 points, 67 points. If someone else does that, I'm kind of, I'm a little shocked. When Luka does it, I'm kind of like, yeah, it's a typical Luka game. It's what I expect, and it's what I expect in this game versus Portland. It's a pretty good matchup, as they're the 7th worst defensive team in the NBA. They're 25th versus point guards, and he's got an elite 1.72 points per minute rate, and he has a 37% usage rate on the season. I have nothing bad to say about Luka. And January 17th, just 2 games ago, versus Portland, he had 60 fantasy points, 35 points, 8 boards, 7 assists, and he was 12,400. I think he can get probably 60, 70 points here versus Portland if this game stays close, which I think it should. So Luka, obviously a tremendous play if you have the salary. Now, I've not tried to build a lineup yet. Like I always say, I don't even start to try to build lineups at least an hour until lock because it just makes no sense with all the injury news. I don't want to get stuck on a lineup, but I'm not totally sure how much value we're going to have. But, I mean, there's a couple value plays I like, but I'm just not sure how viable it's going to be to fit in a guy like Luka. But it is a small slate, so, you usually want to get the highest scoring player on the slate, which I think that could very easily be Luka. It's either going to be him or LeBron more than likely, and I think Luka's got the safer floor of having a better game. But Luka is a fantastic play if you have the salary. And if you're watching me and I'm blinking a lot, it's because my eyes are really bothering me. I don't know what it is. I'm trying not to do it, but it really hurts my eyes because it's straining my eyes. But I don't know what it is. But just try to ignore my eyes if you're watching me. But LeBron, we got to talk about LeBron. So he's about $1,900 cheaper than Luka, so about $2K cheaper. And honestly, you might just want to drop down to LeBron. Now, I know the past 2 games have not been that great. 42 points and then 45 points tonight or last night whenever we were watching this versus New York. Still got the win, though, but man, who really cares about that for fantasy purposes? But I think he can bounce back here versus Brooklyn, and it's a really good matchup. They actually are okay defensively, but when it comes to guards, they rank bottom 5 versus point guards or whatever you want to call LeBron. He's listed as a point guard, small forward. He's pretty much just whatever on the court, and I really don't care about matchups either way with LeBron because really there's no one in the NBA that can actually stop him. So he can just do whatever he wants. Don't really care about the matchups, and there's a nice pace up spot here for for the Lakers versus the Nets, as they are 6th in pace of play, and the Lakers are, middle to late teens. And he's at 1.55 points per minute in the season, 31.6% usage rate, triple-double threat every single night he's on the court. You always know he's going to rack up those assists. Didn't do that last night versus New York, but most nights, 13 assists, 12 assists, 19 assists. This is what you get from LeBron. I think he's a safe bet for 50-plus fantasy points. And if you think he's within, 5 to 7 points with Luka, he's 2K cheaper, so I could totally understand saving some salary and going with LeBron. So don't mind him. And then Damian Lillard, I don't want to talk about every single person on this slate, so I'm personally going to be passing on Damian Lillard. I know he had that monster game in the last one versus Golden State. He was extremely high owned, though, so it really not like it mattered either way. I think he was, 80% owned in GPPs, or at least in mine, but ended up scoring 92 fantasy points, one of the best games of the season for anybody. 10 boards, 7 assists, 61 points. He also had overtime as well. Shot 23 pointers, hit 11 of them, had 37 shots. He's 10K. I can't pay 10K for Damian Lillard. I'm probably not going to be able to fit in Damian Lillard and someone like LeBron, so just give me LeBron. It just doesn't really make sense for me to pay 10K for Damian Lillard. If CJ is out, obviously that's a boost to him, but it's still not worth the price tag in my opinion. It's not even a good matchup versus Dallas, so I'm going to have to pass on Lillard. Do I think he's probably going to get 50-plus points? I think that's a safe assumption, but at 10K, I feel much safer with a guy like LeBron, who's only 500 more. So, just in my opinion, I'd rather play LeBron. And Anthony Davis, if there's no minutes limit here, I know it's a back-to-back. He just played, so that could be a little bit of concern. Only played 30 minutes versus New York. And that's what his minutes got ramped up. He was at 23 minutes in the first game. He came back versus Boston, saw his minutes go up to 30 versus New York. Now, if we were told he's good to go 35, 36 minutes as usual, yeah, I'd love that at 9,500. He should never be 9,500. He'd actually be one of my favorite spend-ups on the... I know there's not a lot of spend-ups, but he might be my preferred spend-up on the slate if they were... if we had news that he's getting 35-plus minutes. Obviously, it's 12 a.m. the night before, so I have no idea. But it's also back-to-back, so I don't know. Maybe he sits it out. I'm not totally sure. Maybe his minutes are stay at about 30. Not totally sure. It's not like back-to-backs were ever an issue with Anthony Davis, but I know he's coming back from the injury, so we'll see. I don't think he would sit, but if he gets 35 minutes, I obviously like him versus Brooklyn. It's a nice fast-paced matchup, and they also struggle versus big men. They rank bottom 5 versus big men. They're pretty good defensively versus shooting guards, small forwards, power forwards. I know Anthony Davis is technically a power forward, but again, he's kind of matchup-proof as well, but he's going to get run at center as well. So he's going to be fine here versus Brooklyn. Like I said, they're 6th in pace of play. He's at 1.45 points per minute in the season, 30% usage rate. They do struggle with big men. So Anthony Davis, 9,500, just a little bit too cheap. He should always be above 10K. So, if he's good to go, 9,500 is a good price tag. But again, just keep your eyes out for the injury news. Let's see, scrolling down a little bit. It's not scrolling down a little bit. Scrolling down one spot. Hassan Whiteside at 8,800. Not a lot of interest here. Now, he's listed. It says he's questionable. He's listed as probably. Should be good to go here. He played 44 minutes in the last game versus Golden State. Balled out, 57 fantasy points. Now, he did have a really good game versus Dallas in the last game. That was with CJ McCollum out. Although I'm not really I'm not like he's contingent on CJ McCollum being out. He's been great all year with them in. I'm just saying he gets a little bit of a boost with CJ out. He's at 1.44 points per minute with CJ out, and with CJ in, he's at 1.37 points per minute. So either way, he's been very good. Now, do I really want to pay $8,800 for him? I'm a big Hassan Whiteside fan. I've been playing him probably more than most people have this season, but I don't love the spot versus Dallas. I'm not sure how easy it is going to be able to fit him in, but he did get 57 points in the last game versus them, but he's fine. It's a 3-game slate, so I don't expect him to go unowned, but he should be lower owned than most of these guys, just relatively. That's the right word I'm looking for. He's fine, though. He's really good on a point-per-minute basis. If CJ's off the court, boost for him. And he's always got 20-20 game potential, so you could certainly look his way 8,800. Just not my favorite play on the slate, but he isn't play. Kyrie Irving, I will pass. Kevin Love. So this is our first player from this Washington-Cleveland game, and I'm definitely going to be talking about this game quite a bit, so I'm glad we can finally talk about a piece of this game. I really like the game stack here. We got a 235 over-under, which should be the highest on the slate. This is the only total that's out. The other two have not been out yet. If I had to guess, I feel like the Lakers-Brooklyn game might be second highest, and then the Dallas-Portland game might be third, but I could honestly see that going either way, so they're not going to be as high as 235 in my opinion, but both should be pretty solid at least. But either way, You gotta love this game from a fantasy perspective. We have two of the worst defenses facing off. Cleveland's second worst, and Washington is third worst. Also, a nice pace-up spot here for the Cavs. Washington's 7th in pace of play, and Cleveland is 27th. Now, I always like getting guys in pace-up spots. Washington does rank 24th versus power forwards. Kevin Love's got almost a 25% usage rate of the season, 1.15 points per minute. You know, if the game's competitive, you'll see about 35 minutes, and it's a really good spot versus Washington. So, definitely has some interest in Kevin Love. I think he's a very solid mid-range play. Porzingis, they've said that we're going to give him like shorter minute stints when he's on the court, so I don't really see a reason to want to play him versus Portland. I mean, it's a good matchup, but I just don't think I can do it. Bradley Beal, though, he's probably the best play on this slate, as long as he's good to go from back-to-back. Again, it's the night before, so I have no idea about the news, but he actually just got done balling out versus Miami. He played 38 minutes, although I was aided from overtime, so he would have played about 33 minutes, which is still fine. And he scored 58 points, 38 real-life points, 9 boards, 5 assists. Kind of what you'd expect from Bradley Beal. It's a little bit more than you'd expect, but, you know, typical Bradley Beal stuff. And if he's going to get 35-plus minutes or just 33-plus minutes and he has no restrictions off the back-to-back, he's pretty much the lock of the slate for me, in my opinion. I mean, he's only 7,700, and obviously the pricing came out before he just balled out, but it looked like he was just fine in the last. He shot the ball 24 times, and then you're going to give me a matchup versus Cleveland. You really can't ask for much more here. I mean, this is an excellent play at 7,700. I'd play him at. I'd consider him. I'm sorry, I keep saying that. I would consider him at 9K versus Cleveland. So 7,700, not a bad price here at all. And Cleveland is bottom 3 versus guards. He's at nearly 1.3 points per on the season, 32.6% usage rate, 235 total, 1 exposure to this game. He's also less expensive than Kevin Love, which is kind of just silly. So Bradley Beal, as long as he's good to go, I know it's a back-to-back, and he's recently coming from an injury. Again, I have no injury news. He has not played a back-to-back yet, just because there really hasn't been an opportunity to play a back-to-back yet, so we'll see. But assuming he's good to go, 7,700, I cannot pass this price up for Bradley Beal versus Cleveland, so definitely want to get exposure to him. He'd be my lock of the slate as long as all systems are go for Bradley Beal. Staying in this game, Tristan Thompson's fine. He has the occasional blow-up games. He also has the occasional blow-up your fantasy roster days. But past 2 games have been okay. 37 minutes, 35 minutes, 31 fantasy points, 47 fantasy points. Had 22 boards in that last game versus New York. Do I expect him to get 47 points here versus Washington? No. Is it possible? For sure. I mean, they're terrible versus centers, and they're just really terrible in all aspects versus any position. They rank 28th versus centers. Tristan Thompson's close to a point per minute guy. But 7,300 is just a little bit too expensive for me, so I wouldn't play him outside of game stacks if you just want low ownership. McCollum, he's listed as questionable, so he didn't practice, but he also did individual drills, so it looks like he's coming close to coming back. If he's good to go and he's going to get his usual minutes, 6,700 is not a bad price tag for him. He's a point per minute guy. He's got a 27% usage rate. I wouldn't hate the idea of using him, but I'm kind of just hoping he's out just to give us some more value plays. So, again, you have to keep your eyes and ears open for some injury news on CJ McCollum. Collin Sexton, 6,500. Again, just exposure to this game. I don't mind it. And he's actually been pretty solid recently. 31, 37, 42, 32. 24 is a little low, but he's also 5,500 in that game. Then 31, 36, 27, 28, 40. Actually been pretty good. Not too much I can complain about. I can complain about this price though, 6,500. That's a little expensive for the guy. And they did price Cleveland correctly versus Washington. Really didn't price Washington that correctly with Bradley Beal being 7,700, but he's fine. He's at 0.9 points per minute. He's got a 27% usage rate. Washington's ranked 26 versus point guards. 1 exposure to this game. Collin Sexton's fine. I can't really say too many bad things about him except for the price tag. But again, if you just want to game stack this up, totally understand it. Carmelo, not a lot of interest there. And you also have some new pieces coming in like Trevor Ariza that can hurt his usage. So I'm probably going to pass on Carmelo Anthony. Let's see. Scrolling down a little bit. Garland, I actually don't mind him at 5,500. He might be a better point per dollar option than Collin Sexton. Now, he doesn't have the upside that Collin Sexton does, but he's been fine. He's been scoring at least 20 points a game, all but, one game in the last 10 games. So none of the last 10 games he scored at least 20 points. 33, 17 was the bad game versus Minnesota, but then 27, 32, 33, 28, 32, 23, 23, 20. Been pretty solid, and again, this is a great matchup versus Washington. It's a nice fast-paced game, which suits a guy like Garland well because he's not afraid to shoot the ball a lot. He had 20 shot attempts versus New York, 14, 12, 16. Shooting the ball is never going to be a problem. Going in might be a problem, but he's going to shoot the ball a lot, which versus Washington, that's all you can really ask for. They're a terrible defensive team. 5,500, not a bad price for Darius Garland. Now, he's only at 0.8 points per on the season, but I think he's going to be fine at 5,500 versus Washington. Now, if this was a regular 8-9 game slate, I probably have no interest in Garland, but again, this is a 3-game slate, so we can't get too picky here on the guys we want to put in our lineups. Mahimi, he's coming off a monster game, but I'm probably not going to chase that versus Cleveland. Just don't really like the price at 5,200. Larry Nance got priced up. He was in that high 3K range or the mid 3K range. 33, 35, 36, 39. Played pretty well the last 3 games given his price tag. He had 24, 25, 28 minutes, 28 points, 20, 28. Now, at 5,100, this is probably going to be where I jump off the wagon there because I believe I played him versus Chicago, and I think I for sure played him versus New York. I can't remember versus Chicago, but 5,100, that's a little bit too much unless someone like Kevin Love happens to sit or Tristan Thompson, but I don't really see why that would happen. So 5,100, probably have to pass on Larry Nance, despite the good matchup. I really just think the upside's there for him to hit value at 5,100. Bertans, he's been cooling off, and he hasn't really been playing that many minutes, except for the last game. But he had 36 fantasy points, which was great, which obviously, when I was going over my first game notes, Bertans, the game hasn't updated yet, so I never saw the final score yet. But it was nice to see that he actually ended up having 32 minutes, shot the ball 18 times, had 12 threes, shot 12 threes, didn't make 12 threes, hit 4 of them, 36 fantasy points. So it's actually pretty encouraging to see because when I was first looking at my game notes, I believe this was in the middle of this game, and I'm just looking at the recent game log. It hasn't been doing well, but it was nice to see him that he got 32 minutes. Now, that was aided with overtime, so we could assume he got, 27, 28 minutes. But if he's going to get, 27 to 28 minutes versus Cleveland, maybe they ramped that up to 30, depending on how he feels. I mean, that's not that bad, especially for a guy that shot the ball 12 times from deep. I mean, Cleveland's one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. Bertans at 5K, that's actually not that bad of a price. I mean, we could certainly look at him. We know he can get hot from deep, and I like the game environment for him. A guy that shoots a ton of threes, should be a pretty fast-paced up-and-down game with not a lot of defense going on. So Bertans is not a bad mid-range option. Again, we can't get too picky with these plays because it's only a 3-game slate. If this was a normal size slate, I'd probably have no interest in Bertans, but again, can't get too picky here. I do like that they had a pretty good game last night. So Bertans on my radar as of right now. I know it's a back-to-back, but should be okay. If for some reason Bradley Beal happened to sit just because it's a back-to-back and it's his first couple games back from injury, Jordan McRae would pretty much be the lock button at 5K. I mean, we pretty much lock this guy in every single night that Bradley Beal missed for 2 weeks. So McRae at 5K versus Cleveland would become an absolute lock. But again, I'm not really expecting Bradley Beal to sit. I'm trying to give you guys scenarios just in case something like that would happen because NBA news can throw everybody off. Just know Jordan McRae would be an absolute lock if Bradley Beal happens to be out. Don't see why that would happen, though. Let's see. Scrolling down a little bit, there's really not a lot of guys we can talk about. If CJ McCollum was out, we could look at Simons here at 4,500. Now, I never really like playing Simons, but he's always okay when one of the guys like Lillard or CJ McCollum's out. Last game, he had 26 fantasy points. Played 46 minutes, though, because of overtime, but if you take away the overtime, he played 41 minutes, which is pretty incredible, actually. Played 35 minutes in the last game versus the previous game versus OKC, so the minutes are there, so that won't be an issue. He actually shot the ball 9 times versus Golden State, so I like the volume that he saw. But if CJ's off the court, he's about 0.7, 0.8 points per minute guy, which isn't great, but he's over a 20% usage rate. And he's fine at 4,500. Not the greatest matchup versus Dallas, but not a lot of great plays on this slate, so we can't get too picky like I've been saying. So Simons, he's fine. Someone we could look at for sure. Let's see, scrolling down a little bit. This is where it gets really thin. Like Osman, I hate Osman. I don't like playing the guy, but he's okay. He actually has had at least 20 points in 3 out of the last 4 games. Did not have a good game versus Memphis, but his minutes are a little bit sporadic. But by the off chance he gets 30-plus minutes, he should be a pretty good play here versus Washington. Like I keep saying, I want exposure to this game. High total. Washington's 25th versus forwards. Osman, he's only at 0.71 points per minute, but he's also pretty cheap at 4,400. He shows these occasional upside games. He's in play. I don't love it, but he is in play at 4,400. Man, and after that, it gets pretty gross. There's a couple, I believe Trevor Ariza is 3,500. He actually should probably be one of the better value plays on this slate. I know a lot of people are probably going to be seeing this bright green 30th here, which is going to look pretty good for people that need value plays, and I totally get it. Not the worst matchup here versus Dallas as a forward. They actually do struggle a little bit with forwards, but he should be fine. It's going to be his first game as a Blazer. I got him for about 30 minutes tonight, hopefully, and if CJ's out, it's going to open up some more minutes going around and just some more usage, so that would benefit him as well. And like I said, I have him for about 30 minutes tonight. He's been about 0.7 points per minute on the season. Now I know he's going to a new team, so that could change a little bit. So, but 3,500, close. If you're going to get 30 minutes, you should be a pretty good play. So don't mind Trevor Ariza here. Again, can't get too picky if this was a regular slate, but I have a ton of interest in Ariza. Maybe, probably not. But I mean, on this slate, 3,500, not that bad for Trevor Ariza. He should allow us to get in guys like LeBron or Luka if we choose to do so. Then I have one more play for you guys that I'm looking at right now, and that's going to be Seth Curry. Now, we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here, but he should see close to 20 minutes, and he can occasionally get hot from three. He's going to shoot the ball quite a bit. 3 times versus the Clippers wasn't great, but 10 times versus Portland, 8 times versus Sacramento, 3 times versus Golden State, but he's going to shoot some threes, and that's really all we can ask for. He shot 10 shots total there, 14 shots, 6-8's not great, but 11, 14. He's not a consistent player. I mean, I'm not trying to say he's some consistent knockdown shooter that's going to shoot the ball 20 times a game, but he's 3,300, so give him the benefit of the doubt there. Not too bad, and he has the occasional games where he gets over 20 fantasy points. Do I expect that tonight versus Portland? Probably not, but there's the chance he can. It's only 3,300. It's a small slate. We're starving for value here. It's a good matchup versus Portland. They play a little bit fast. They're one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. They do struggle with guards. They struggle with forwards. They struggle with pretty much everything. Seth Curry, not the worst play in the world. He's actually at 0.8 points per minute on the season, which is not that bad either for someone that's 3,300. So don't mind Seth Curry. Again, don't like him. If this is a regular slate, not doing it. But again, can't get too picky in the slate. So Seth Curry is on my radar as of right now. And I think that's pretty much anyone I can talk about. So I'll just talk about overlaydfs.com really quick. Okay, so sponsor of the show, overlaydfs.com. I put the link in the description below, but I might get in trouble by YouTube for linking a site like this just because it's like DFS or gambling, whatever you want to call it. So don't want to get in trouble there, but check it out, overlaydfs.com. It's a very simple DFS kind of website. Pretty much just pick whoever you think's going to score the most points. They give you a list of matchups you can pick throughout the day, and whichever ones you think that you can get the biggest edge on, you pick. So, like, for example, this is tonight's slate. I picked Jason Tatum over John Morant. I thought that was one of the easiest picks on the slate, so I went with that, especially with Jaylen Brown being out. Picked that, ended up winning. Then there's a couple tricky ones. I had Lou Williams versus Montrezl Harrell. I picked wrong there. I picked Lou Williams. Just ended up not working out. Malcolm Brogdon, he ended up getting an injury, so obviously he wasn't going to outscore Kelly Oubre. But it's a pretty fun website. It's not hard to learn. There's no salary cap issues, so it's not like you're crunching, optimal lineups all day. It's pretty much just a start 'em, sit 'em thing. You can use my own projections to pick your own, or to help pick your plays, is what I'm trying to say. I went 8-4 tonight, which is not bad, but didn't get into the money. But the top 10% of the, the top 10%, like the best, I shouldn't say lineups, but the best, people the best records, they win 9x their money, and this was a $22 double deuce contest. So if you enter $22 and you happen to be in the top 10%, which was the top 5 people in this contest, you won $180, and they're also running a jackpot where if you go 12-0 on your picks, you win the progressive jackpot, which I believe is at 6,400 now. So if you happen to go 12-0 on your picks, there's people that are close every single night. I know T-Zone on here, he went 11-1. His one mess up was Lou Williams over Montrezl Harrell, so I'm sure he's pretty upset about that. Could have won the $6,400 jackpot. Fortunately, he did not get there. But if you guys want to check it out, it's at overlaydfs.com. Very simple website. You just pick whoever thinks going to score the most points. Pretty fun. I would not recommend this to you guys if I didn't play it myself. As you can see, I play it pretty much every single night. So check it out, overlaydfs.com. Slump Buster Challenge as well. If you lose 20 days in a row, they will refund every single dollar that you entered. So they're basically daring you to lose 20 days in a row. And it's going to be it for this video is what I'm trying to say. So see you guys in the next video. Hope this video was helpful. If it was, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at Pennell16. Sign up for overlaydfs.com. I do not have a promo code. Just go over there, sign up, and start playing. It's pretty fun. They have a $22 contest. They have a $2.50 contest. You can multi-enter as well. But again, you do not have to deal with sharks over here. Pretty fun, casual website. Check it out. Overlaydfs.com. If you want access to my projections and my spreadsheets that I build every single night, links in the description below for my Patreon. And I'll see you guys in the next video.